Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Diving into Self-Care Part 3 with Lisa Saremi. My name is Nicole, and I'm on the Access Elite team that has brought this event to you today. For those of you who've been with us before, welcome back. And for those who might not be familiar, Access Elite is a health and wellness company. We provide on-demand wellness content and facilitate live virtual events. We're so excited to bring a little bit of positivity and connection to your day. So I just want to take a moment and thank you all for joining in. And I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. Lisa is a transformational coach, a marriage and family therapist, and a yoga therapist. And with that, Lisa, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. As always, it's really awesome to be here, and I'm really excited to get into today's content. We are in the third portion of our Sacred Self-Care series. And today we're really going to be diving into more of the energetic body and how do we tend to that part when we're speaking from a place of self-care. How do we integrate that in? And the different weeks that we've been going through. Week 1, we went into what is self-care and why. Week 2, we went into stress, because ultimately what we uncovered is self-care is stress management. And so we talked a little bit about stress and like, why do we want to manage that stress in our lives? And so today we're going to get into how to manage your energetic body. And the final piece of this will be developing our own personal self-care plan. So the outline for today, we're going to go over, I work with a yoga therapeutic lens because I am a yoga therapist. And so one of the things we're going to go through are the 5 koshas that are given through that ancient wisdom, which really are simply the 5 layers of our awareness that kind of veil our true self and our wholeness. We'll go through the 7, what I call centers of consciousness, what ancient wisdom calls the chakras. And we'll just kind of dive into what are these and how are they connected to our worlds energetically and actually in real life. How does our energy flow through these centers? And then really ultimately, yogic practices are all about restoring balance. Self-care is about coming back to balance, right? So, and stress management is the same thing. So it's like, okay, well, what are some things that we can do to bring ourselves back to our optimal balance state and literally use that again next week to inform our self-care plan. So we'll talk about the koshas. The koshas, as I said, these simply mean these different layers that kind of make up, or the different veils that make up our true self. So the first one is called Annamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha simply is the layer of the body. So Annamaya kosha represents our physical body. It includes our skin, our muscles, the connective tissues, our fat, and our bones. And so it's literally everything that we experience through the channel of the body, the conduit of the body, the sensations that we experience in all forms. And then the second layer, you'll notice that the layers kind of, they go from in to out, right? So the body, then that next layer is called the pranamaya kosha. So it's depicted in the orange on the image of our consciousness. And pranamaya kosha is, so prana really means life force energy. And pranamaya in yoga, the practice of pranamaya is using the breath as a way to channel our life force energy. So in the koshas, prana represents our life force energy and that circulatory system. So it includes the fluids and some of the physical aspects of our body that control the movement of the blood flow and the lymphatic fluid and the cerebral spinal fluid through our bodies. The circulatory movement of our breath is also in this container. And our respiratory system. So the breath is kind of like a portal to begin to experience the lighter layers that make up our being. So that pranamaya kosha, then we get lighter and we go to the manamaya kosha. And the manamaya kosha is really about our emotions, our thoughts, and it's connected to our nervous system as far as the physical part of the body. So with the most recent research, right, modern science has developed this acute understanding of our inner working of the brain, the mind, motivations, emotions, actually still have a mysterious quality. So when we were talking about stress and we were talking about the nervous system last session, the limbic part of our brain is where a lot of our emotions come from. And there's still a lot being kind of revealed in that realm, but we do know that our emotions are a real thing and they affect our body and they send messages through our brain and they're connected to our thoughts and our beliefs and our values, and they're all connected to our nervous system. So this is the layer, the manamaya kosha, where you move from the physical feeling to a rhythm or an emotional feeling. So those are the first two layers. And then as we start to go out, the layers get lighter and less seen. So oh my gosh, I always have a hard time saying this one. So hold on. Vinmaya kosha. It might be the way I spelt it here. But okay, so this one is really the realm of like our wisdom, okay? That fourth layer. It's our intellectual body. And when we dive underneath the sea of all of those emotions and all of those feelings, that's where we get to the wisdom body. This is where we can begin to develop our awareness, insight, and consciousness. And so this layer, when we're connecting to it, it really gives us a connection to our deeper desires, our deeper motivations. It lets us see that we have choice and that we can actually use this intellect to make decisions or choices rather than feeling like we have to be reactive to whatever is unfolding in our lives. So I always think of this discernment in this layer. It's almost like I can sometimes feel it in my bones. So it's like the wisdom that's so deep inside of you, right? The depth of your bones. And then that last kosha, the bliss body, on the Maya kosha. So this is where we're really in that space of awareness, where we're really sitting back into that part of ourselves that is whole, that is perfect, that is complete, that is in its divine perfection. And that part of ourselves can witness all of this other stuff happening and still feel its wholeness and its radiance. This is the bliss body. A lot of times when like if you have a yoga practice, like at the end of a physical practice, one might feel a little more connected to the Annamaya kosha. It's a light feeling. It's a liberated feeling and layer. And it's that part of you that doesn't suffer. It's liberated from that. And it just is. It's its isness, your isness. That's the fifth kosha. So why did we take the time to go over all these? Because these are the different layers that make up who we are. And so when we're thinking about self-care and we're thinking about stress, we want to consider all of these layers and consider not just how they're impacted by our lives and how we would like inform a self-care plan, but like, where do you need balance? What is being ignored? And what is deeply calling for your attention? And so with all of that said, I ask you to continue to bring that curiosity in as we move through the chakras. Because the chakras, although they aren't the layers that make up who you are, they are these centers of consciousness that represent the different parts and pieces of who you are in a way. So I think of these and I present these and work with people with the chakras and the work that I do, really like this is a really powerful roadmap. And this roadmap is ancient and there's a lot of wisdom in it. And we could just try it on and see if it helps us cultivate a little more balance in our worlds, because it gives us a way to see where we're out of balance. So for example, your root chakra right there at the base, it represents this center of consciousness, represents your relationship to feeling safe and stable in your life. And the words, I am. It's feeling like you belong on this planet. And when that is there, you can move into the next center of consciousness, which is the sacral chakra. This represents an emotional realm, our sensuality, our sexuality, our relationship to desire and pleasure. And it's all about I feel. And of course, these color codes are the color codes of these energy centers. The solar plexus has to do with our willpower. The heart chakra has to do with love and really relationships to ourselves, to others. We're going to be getting into each one of these in a little more detail here in a moment. So if I'm going fast, don't worry. The throat chakra, expression, communication, and how we are able to bring that out into the world. I speak. The third eye, I see, clarity, wisdom, and our perception of our worlds. And the last one at the crown, I know. This is the chakra of transcendence, or the center of consciousness around spirituality, what our relationship is to our connectedness and how we define that. It's very unique for each and every one of us. So those are the chakras, kind of the roadmap on a high level perspective. And now let's go into each one. I had done a whole series with Access Elite on all of these energy centers. And so I'm not sure, but I think Nicole can maybe at the end of our session today lead people to, if they wanted to take a look at those. But we'll do a little more details here today. The root. So think about your legs. Think about your tailbone, your SI joint. That sense of feeling safe, like you belong, your body. So the root is everything. The center of consciousness is everything, again, in the physical realm, right? So just like we were looking at the koshas and we had the Annamaya kosha, root chakra, everything in the physical realm, all of matter, our monetary existence, and like are really like not just need to stay alive, but to feel safe in our aliveness. And this deep connection that we have with Mother Earth. Now, when this energy center gets kind of out of balance, things can show up like sciatica, your legs and your feet. Maybe you have issues in the joints, your bones, your rectum, and your immune systems. So what are some actual physical dysfunctions that might arise? Lower back pain has to do with the root. Sciatica, again, which is this nerve that goes down through your hips, all the way down your leg. And 70% of our population deals with sciatica at one point in their lives. So maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Varicose veins, rectal tumors or cancer, depression, immune-related disorders. So, these layers, as I was talking, they're all connected. We can't really like separate them too much. And what I mean by that is like, if we don't feel safe in the world and that this energy center is out of balance and we don't tend to it and we don't bring a sense of balance back into it, something that is in the spiritual or those more esoteric realms begin to eventually arise in our physical body. Maybe some of us have experienced that. I know that I have. So mentally and emotionally, when our root chakra is out of balance, we can feel, like I was saying earlier, a little depressed. We can be in a lot of fear. We could get anxious. This world represents our relationship to our home, to our families, our tribes, the belief patterns that we have taken through the lineage and the different generations, and what we've inherited from our family. And so there's archetypal energies. An archetype, if you're not familiar with what that is just like a pattern that exists in the collective. And so when we're talking about the root chakra, some of the archetypes, Mother Earth in her balanced state is the ideal, let's say, archetype for the root chakra. Now, when somebody is in a space of feeling like a victim, this is when the root chakra is under, like, deficient, right? Like a person may feel like a victim because maybe they don't feel safe. Maybe some basic essential things that just give us that sense of being okay is missing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, somebody who's like way too like over energized in this particular energy center becomes the bully, angry, attached to all the physical things, and dominant. So here we move to the next energy center, the sacral. Orange, water. We go from earth material to water. Emotions. We're in the pelvis. We're in the reproductive center, the lower abdominal area, the womb, the genitals, the kidney, the bladder, your reproductive system. And so, as you can imagine, with those organs being right there, this is connected to our sexuality and our relationship to nourishing and nurturing ourselves and the things in our lives. What is our relationship to pleasure? So when we get into the archetypes, I'll hone into that a little more. And so some of the physical dysfunctions, as you can imagine, anything that has to do with reproduction, impotence, frigidity, bladder issues, uterine issues, or kidney trouble, stiff or lower back. Mentally and emotionally, addiction, it lives here because our relationship to pleasure lives here. Disassociation and trauma can live here. Emotional detachment, confusion in our sexuality, strong, deep emotions that take over. And we feel like we're taken over by depression, taken over by anxiety, or just unable to manage our moods. And in addition, the emotions sometimes that live here are shame, guilt, blame, and desirability. So as the sacral is the container for relationships, we move from this tribe, this oneness, this family unit, and we move into duality. We move into the masculine and the feminine, the sun and the moon, the black and the white, and the polarities that can create that emotional havoc that lives in this space. And so the archetypes, we've got the emperor or the empress. So in a balanced state, the emperor or the empress exemplifies a balanced sacral. When they're in their balanced state, it's a balanced sacral. So it's somebody who believes they deserve to enjoy things in life, but is not overly indulgent, allows themselves to feel, and also knows how to nourish themselves to manage their feelings so that they're not, like crazy weather coming in and out. And then we can move into the martyr. Now, the martyr is somebody that does something and does something and does something, and then eventually becomes a little resentful. So there's a lot of expectation with the martyr. And there might be a lot of restriction with the martyr. So this is somebody that has a sense of rigidity around the pleasure principle. Sometimes what we'll find in this area is people that are restrictive, like eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, or maybe just restrictive behavior. You know what I mean? And then on the other side, we swing to the other side of the spectrum, to the addict. And this is the person that does not know how to say no. This is the person that lives in their addiction and that constant like experience of not being satiated. So remember, I want to just remind all of us as we're moving through these centers of consciousness that these are energy centers and we are energy. And our energy is constantly moving and shifting. And sometimes we have themes throughout our lives. And then sometimes things are happening circumstantially in our lives. And we just have to be aware of what is bringing the out of balances forward so that we can tend to them. Moving into the solar plex, this is right there in the belly. This is our center of consciousness connected to our confidence, our relationship to discipline. It's a bright yellow. Think of a big bright sun, and it is the element of fire. This is where things happen. Things are manifested into reality or purified so that we can move into the higher realms. Think about your digestive system, right? It's right here in your solar plex, and the digestive system is muting your food and liquid into energy, or it's getting rid of anything that's toxic. The connections to the body outside of your digestive system are your muscles, your pancreas, and your adrenals that sit right there in the back. So associated to fire, power, will, discipline, your metabolism, your energy, transformation, self-esteem. It's where matter and movement come together. Now, physical dysfunctions can show up as ulcers, diabetes, hypoglycemia, or any kind of digestive disorders. And then mentally or emotionally, if we're feeling like low on ourselves, low self-esteem, if we have a hard time regulating our anger, again, emotions, depression, anxiety, a hard time standing in being responsible, standing into our like adult version of ourselves. If we live with a lot of fear of rejection or very sensitive to criticism, these are places where there can be imbalances, right, with this energy center. And the archetypes. So in its healthiest element, we have the lion. The lion is loyal, it's proud, and a lion actually only goes after what it needs. Like it doesn't destroy just for the purpose of destroying. So when we think about a lion, we think about when it's in its natural habitat and doing its natural thing, it's really like this powerful animal, and it does get destructive when it needs to, but it's not a destructive animal, if that makes sense. Now, a warrior, although there is a balanced warrior state, I'm going to say when this energy center is exasperated, we're going to be talking about the archetype of the warrior that is a little like aggressive and assertive and angry, and like thinking about this person is so dominant and controlling. And so there's like a lot of fire energy, right? And that is when it's over exasperated. So with somebody like that, we want to kind of, how do we cool things down a little bit so they can come back to a state of balance? And on the other end of the spectrum is the servant, is the person that doesn't believe they deserve, doesn't believe that they can maybe, and is constantly putting themselves below. So this, again, is a roadmap, and maybe you can see more and more as we're going through these, how we can use this chakra system as a roadmap to get a sense of where we're out of balance each day, week, year, or a lifetime. And then from the belly, we move to the heart. And as you can imagine, it's right there in the center of your chest. And the connections to the body are your lungs, the actual heart, the pericardium, your arms and your hands, extensions of the heart, it's associated with love, with air, the element of air, your breath, life, really, balance. This is the balanced energy center. It's right there in the center of the three. It's also related to your ability to heal and your ability to feel unified. Some physical dysfunctions, asthma, high blood pressure, any type of heart issue, anything on the spectrum, lung disease. And then emotionally, this energy center can show up as codependent. I don't have it on there, but love addiction, sex addiction, anxious and avoidant attachment issues. Depression and anxiety can almost live in every one of these energy centers. And so through work, we figure out where is it coming from and how do we tend to it. And the archetypes. Okay, so the lover. Think about Cupid. The lover in its healthy, not like love addict or love avoidant state, is just this example of what it is to be a conduit for love to pass through in a healthy way. Being able to love, being able to receive love, not getting stingy, not getting so guarded, and not getting misidentified or enmeshed with another. Then we have the performer. So the performer in this particular case, it's actually a restricted energy. And what I mean by that is that there's like, they don't feel love. So they feel like they have to perform to get love, right? There's a lack of self-love. And so it's almost like a little bit of a disconnection to the feelings of the heart because they're constantly performing to get love through their performing. And then the empath, all they can do is feel. They feel so much that they can't tell the boundary between themselves or somebody else. And so again, we can see when we kind of look at these archetypal patterns, how an unhealthy balance in these energy centers can really show up in our lives. And they probably do, depending on what is happening in the situations in our lives. Moving forward, we've got the throat chakra. So this energy center is associated to the thyroid, the parathyroid, or throat, stiff neck, colds, and our ears. We don't want to forget the ears. It is connected to the neck, but also the shoulders, the arms, and the hands, and the hypothalamus, our mouth, our jaw, our teeth, our trachea. The associations are sound, vibration, communication, mantras, telepathy, creativity. And so mentally and emotionally, this really is the center of choice, our ability to make choice, to express our choice, and to do it with discernment and to feel the freedom and the liberation around that. The element is actually ether. And ether is, it's like lighter than air, right? It's like gas. So as we move into the throat, we move higher, we lose any element of the earth. The archetype in a healthy place is the communicator, one that can speak and be heard, but also listen, a healthy communicator. On the other side, I don't have it up there, but the gossiper would be somebody that is overactive in the throat chakra, like they can't stop talking. We've all met somebody like that. Maybe we are one of those people. It can be a state that they're in. It can be a way that they just are. Or you've got somebody on the other end. They have a hard time with words. They have a hard time using their voice, and they're very silent. So the archetype is the silent child. Our third eye, it's the element of none, because we move into the pineal gland. This area in between our brows, it's our third eye, which is our perspective. It's the way that we see the world. It's the way that we connect to our deep intuition. our imagination, our clairvoyance, our ability to have vision. It can be affected through our eyes, right? So blindness, headaches, nightmares, if you have issues sleeping, eye strain, blurred vision, and emotionally and mentally, it can be seen as very intelligent, or there's psychological imbalances, mental health imbalances, being overcome by fears. Yeah. So again, balanced archetype is the intellect, not somebody that lives up here all the time, but that can process in a very balanced and healthy way. When it is, I'm sorry, let me take that back. The intuitive is the balanced one. Somebody that can process through the mind, but also is able to feel, and through that place come into an intuitive space of knowing. The intellect is somebody that lives up here, and it's like everything is through the brain. It's like overthinking, and not being able to drop down to the heart. And then the space cadet or the stoner archetype is somebody that kind of has their head out in the clouds. They're not totally grounded in reality. Maybe they could use bringing one foot down to the earth. And the last energy center is at the crown of the head, your cerebral cortex, your central nervous system, your skin, consciousness, the energy center of spirit. No element, deep purple. It's a knowing. It's not a thinking, it's a knowing. It's a transcendence. It's a feeling so deep. And how could this show up when there is a dysfunction here? Brain issues, dementia, or nervous system issues. Again, existential issues here. Anybody that is like overcome by fear of, let's say, death, or fear in general, or somebody on the other end where it's like they're resisting actually being in the earthly body. Archetypally, the guru is the balanced expression of this energy center. The egoist is underactive, meaning like they think they're God is the best way to put it. They are their higher power. And then we have the mystic, somebody who's so out there that like it doesn't feel like they have a foot in reality. And so as we look at these energy centers up and down the spine, the chakras, when the energy is moving down from the crown into the root, it's a manifesting current. And when it's moving up from the root to the crown, it's a liberating feeling. And these currents are always at play, so we want to take them into consideration. So the key is, when we're thinking about our self-care, as human beings, we're always, even without our thinking mind, trying to come back to balance. It shows up in the relationships that we choose, the activities that we choose, the foods that we choose, the colors that we choose, everything. So when we slow down and become conscious in this waking dream called life, we can actually start to see where the imbalances lie. And then we can address those imbalances directly so that we're not adding to them or exasperating them. And what happens is when we're not in balance, we're just in discomfort and we experience things like suffering. So ways that we can get in balance is to work with affirmations. So M, MB, or MBS. Mind is M, B is body, S is spirit. Affirmations for the mind. Now, the best time to take in affirmations is actually when you're in a theta state, which is right before sleep or right when you wake up. So you might just throw on your YouTube or something, subliminal affirmations, and let it play while you fall your way to sleep. Working with the senses helps us come into balance because the senses are informers and messengers, and they are speaking to us. So we can listen actually to what the senses are asking for. Working with the energy of crystals and stones, working with color and aromatherapy can all help bring balance into some of these energy centers. Different yoga practices always, because you're clearing and making space, in all of these energy centers in the spine, bringing your awareness to your intention and attention to that intention on a regular basis. It becomes an active practice because a lot of times, you know, we don't create intention and our attention just wanders and it can get us into troublesome places. Watching what we're eating. It's important that we're keeping the physical body healthy and that we're giving it foods that actually are going to give it nourishment and vitality. Making sure that we're tending to that physical body through physical movement and meditation. And then not forgetting the imaginal realm. We need to feed that too. So there's a lot of like guided imagery that we can find that helps us allow our imaginations to run. Working with sound, looking at our lifestyle practices to make our lifestyle more balanced, which is actually a big piece of the self-care. Connecting to nature, and then incorporating mantra or chanting into our lives. Now, the different sounds of these energy centers are right here. So you can use the sound, it's just a healing sound, to elongate your exhale, which is really good for your nervous system. So the root chakra is the sacral is oo, the belly is o, the heart is ah, the throat is a, I, and then ah, and then e. If you want to take a snapshot of that photo, you can practice it when we're done. Next week, we're going to get into developing that self-care plan. So I want to encourage you to keep allowing all these different ideas to open up within you so that next week we can put something together that's actually practical and usable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you everyone for joining us today. As you can see on the screen, if you do want to connect with Lisa, there is her email and her website, and she does offer a discounted private sessions that you can take advantage of, being an Access Elite member. As well, I have posted a root chakra video from our on-demand list of videos in the chat below. So if you wanted to dive deeper into the chakra videos, you can access them at any time via accesselitenow.com or our app that we have on your phones. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you all next week for our last class of the self-care series. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, guys. Bye.